every generation thinks their generation is the best. I don't know what it is. It's just this need to be like, when I grew up, that we did it the best. It's just like I was watching my aunt talk to my niece about her kids, and she was just going on about, and back in my day, she didn't talk like that. She doesn't talk like that. But she was like, back in my day, we would pull out the wooden spoon and yes, and I'm like sitting there thinking, that's why they don't talk to you anymore. Like, that's why they cut you off, Sheila. So if you don't know, this week's episode is about Mark Fisher's Hauntology. Last week we did, I talked about capitalist realism. This is another part of that theory, Hauntology, which I find fascinating. It took me a long time to understand this one, because it's like, boogity boo. No, it's, a lot of the videos I saw on YouTube were very, 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 very highbrow, and I'm a dummy. So I wanted to do something that was like, I need to break it down into like simple terms for me to understand. And like hauntology is like very prevalent. It's like according to Mark Fisher, we've left postmodernism a while ago. Postmodernism was marked by, an irreverence and a like no real grand narrative. Excuse me, but like in hauntology, nothing means anything, and no future is coming, and it's all melancholy. We have come to the point where we're just like throwing our hands up, right? Like there's no future. There was a time when we, if you look at buildings and you look at like paintings and the idea what like in the 60s of what the future looked like, it was like, spacely sprockets and those, remember from the Jetsons? It's like an old school retro, like the Fantastic Four movie, which is a perfect example of hauntology. Just like, it's this idea of this futuristic, glossy, clean, but it looks old now, but it's woo, right? And at some point, mass production picked up so much that the future was just erased. And what happens under mass production, according to Mark Fisher, is that capital needs to eliminate anything that does not produce capital or value, does not produce value. So it's like anything that like okay, for example, I was watching, if you watch the podcast Wrestle Me, they do a great episode about how the Netflix merger with WWE is going to kill the product, or at least sanitize it. Like they're going to get rid of all the things on the WWE that was considered bad, but also what is very wrestling, like the Gobbledy Gooker and things like that, like things that are just corny and stupid and like were chances, the risks that you take, and those things are going to be gone and wiped clean for like a very sanitized version, because that's how capital works. And that's how hauntology works, where it's like we see now like the movies that come out, and for a long time now we're not even sure what movies it is, but like movies coming out were IPs. They were all IPs, especially like Marvel movies. It was just a repeat of a Marvel movie, because they knew it was a known factor. They knew that they would make money off of that. And so they lowered the risk, and what happens is we don't see the future of movies. Like in the 70s, when it was like a filmmaker auteur scene, it was just like all these different voices and all these possibilities. And now we're in a moment where it's just like, it's a very flattening. And then you know, every once in a while you get an Andor or something, and it's like, oh wow, cool. But like even that will become, under neoliberalism, will become and or cheap knockoff version. Like Jordan Peele's movie is a perfect example of that. And even Jordan Peele himself, right? Like he takes samples from Jaws and things, and I'm not knocking Jordan Peele, but there does need to be some sort of grounded nostalgia. Now there needs to be some sort of like connection to the past for people to understand it. They need to understand the simulacra that has been programmed in their brain. So they go, oh yes, The Thing. Without even watching The Thing, they go, yeah, that's a thing. It references quickly. And which that creates this kind of like loop that we're in, where like we never really get to the future. Like I like two of my favorite movies this year were Sinners and Weapons. I really enjoyed those movies. And even then, like Sinners heavily, well, I wouldn't say heavily, but it directly had a The Thing, John Carpenter moment in it. And people that didn't even see The Thing, that was a very recognizable kind of, I don't want to say thing, I'm overthinking it. But it was a recognizable like moment. It was like it's language, as Stuart Hall talks about. It's like it's media language. And then you look at Weapons, and it's very Lynchian. Even I would even argue there's moments in that movie that felt like the first Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween. And I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm saying is even the best things that we have need to reference. And I'm not saying reference in itself is terrible. I'm just saying it's this loop that we're caught in, where chance, risk, failure is not acceptable on any level of like, oh, you didn't bring, like people are talking about the new Superman movie because it did make $1 billion. And they're like, oh, it's a failure. And it made, it's like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what happened to our brains that we don't know what success is unless there's a dollar amount to it, right? That's why you hear that, I don't know if people still say that. I don't think people say this anymore, but there was a time when it was like, everything's a Hollywood remake. Yeah, because that's all people are willing to finance. That's what makes money. There's a guarantee on it. And this is the slow elimination of the future. So like I just saw, I don't listen to like pop music. This is not a brag. I'm 50 years old. MF Doom is, that's De La Soul. I'm stuck. I'm musically stuck. But like I saw the album cover for Sabrina Carpenter, and I'm like, oh my God, it's a repeat, right? And then, the idea of the sexy lady pop star is another repeat of Madonna, who was a repeat of Marilyn Monroe, and it's just this like, it's this thing that's just being, like I said in the last video of capitalist realism, this hauntology that just keeps coming up over and over again. Like past 2010, there is going to be, like, if you were born in like 2015, or if you were born in 2012, whatever, there's not going to be a time when you're an adult and people are dressed in the clothes that you wore. Because your time, people are dressed in the clothes you wore. I'm from the 80s. And I see the 80s aesthetic come back so many times. Right? Like the whole, Stranger Things and everything. And that's going to happen so many more times. The 80s, the 90s, the 70s, that look, that feel, that style is going to come back and come back and come back. But we're not moving forward. There is no 2015, 2017 style, because that's a style that was 80s, 90s. And it's what Mark Fisher said. It's the slow cancellation of the future. I'm bad at doing video essays. I gotta be honest with you. I'm trying to be professional, but I'm not good at it. My generation, that whole thing, my generation thinking that like, they're the greatest, is just like that. Even that in itself is hauntology. Even that trope of, oh, back in my day is hauntology. My generation says it. The millennials will say it. Gen Z will say it. Boomers said it. The silent generation said it. Everyone said that their generation was better, stronger, harder, faster. They were the greatest. They had to do the and do. Right? Everybody says that. But we're not, right? Like, we're not the best. Look at my generation's view on gender. We don't understand it because we're stuck in, like, this view of gender from passed down to us. Like, look at our movies in the 80s we grew up with, right? Like, we grew up with, like, a movie like Mr. Mom, where the premise was, could you imagine a man taking care of his kids? And we thought that was, like, the funniest thing on the planet. Like, how is a man going to take care of his kids? What are we doing here? That movie was sold out for weeks. And then, like, a few months later, they came out with 3 Men and a Baby. We're like, what is this, a horror movie? Do they eat the baby? They must eat the baby. Mark Fisher talks about hauntology and, like, this slow erosion of the future, or slow disappearance of the future. And he used Kurt Cobain as an example, and how Kurt Cobain knew that his rebellion was already done. It's already been done. It's just a repeat. He's been there before. Right? The anti-MTV thing it's already been co-opted. There's a depression in that, right? Like, there's a sadness in that. Like, I mean, how many Harry Potter remakes do we need is what I'm saying. I don't even know how the first... I can't tell the difference between the movies from the first one. I went to see them. I thought it was all, like... I'm like, oh, okay. Gary Oldman's in this one. But it all feels the same. Everything's dark.